A deafening crash wakes up the people of Surfside, Florida. It sounds like an earthquake has hit the area, but the source is much closer, Champlain Towers South. At this beachfront condominium, a thick cloud of dust billows into the air. As the dust settles, a horrifying scene unfolds. The 12-story building has crumbled, becoming one of the most tragic construction collapses in U.S. history. Surfside, nestled near Miami, is known for its upscale beach vibe and luxurious resorts. The town offers an urban feel with its array of restaurants, coffee shops, and parks, yet the long sandy beaches suggest a serene getaway. Right on Collins Avenue, steps from the beach, stands Champlain Towers South, a condo building boasting breathtaking views of the ocean. Those who live here are often envied for their scenic homes. However, their idyllic residence is far from perfect. On June 24, 2021, a devastating truth comes to light. In an instant, 98 lives are lost, but the roots of this catastrophe stretch back decades, hidden just beneath the surface. Just moments before the tragedy, a couple was enjoying the mild evening in a hotel near Champlain Towers South. They observed something unusual by the garage entrance, a heap of concrete debris on the ground and streams of water dripping from above. The condo had a swimming pool, and it appeared that water from it was leaking into the garage, a grim sign of what was to come. At about 1:22 a.m., the concrete beam supporting the garage ceiling snapped, and the pool deck above collapsed. This loud crash awakened residents whose condos overlooked the pool area. They saw the entire deck fall onto the cars below, an alarming sight that sent them into immediate panic. Just seconds later, the catastrophe escalated. Following the initial collapse, the middle section of the building broke away and plummeted. From afar, the building's fall resembled a controlled demolition, with floors collapsing into each other in what experts describe as a pancake collapse. The northeast corner of the building briefly remained, then it too crumbled. The entire collapse took less than 12 seconds. A huge cloud of dust enveloped the area, followed by an eerie silence. When the dust cleared, a chilling scene was revealed. The western side of Champlain Tower South still stood, but where it joined the central section, the exposed interiors of wrecked condos were visible. It looked as though a giant had torn away part of the building. In a top-floor apartment, a children's bunk bed teetered on the edge of the precipice. Below it lay a massive pile of twisted metal and concrete, under which many people were buried. Just a minute after the building fell, the local fire department received the first emergency call. When the first responders arrived, they found a scene resembling a battlefield. The middle part of the building was completely destroyed. Survivors were fleeing from the parts of the building that were still standing. Calls for help echoed from beneath the debris.
Is anybody there? Is anybody down there injured? There's a lot of dust, I can barely see anything.
Miraculously, some residents were able to escape from the blocked sections of the building. Those trapped on higher floors shouted to get the attention of the rescue teams. It was immediately obvious that a huge disaster had hit Surfside, one that demanded the full response of Miami-Dade County. Hundreds of firefighters and police officers soon arrived, their sirens tearing through the night. By 4 a.m., a large-scale rescue operation was underway. Teams with search dogs and heavy lifting equipment were deployed to move large chunks of concrete. One of the first to be rescued were a teenager named Jonah Handler and his mom, Stacy Dawn Fang. They were pinned under a 9,500-pound slab of concrete that had created a small protective space. Huddled together and holding hands, they waited for help. Fortunately, someone walking their dog noticed Jonah's fingers poking through the rubble and alerted the rescuers. A group of firefighters quickly worked to lift the heavy slab with their jacks on the unstable debris. It was a delicate operation. Any mistake could have caused the concrete to crush them. About an hour after the collapse, Jonah was safely extracted and rushed to the hospital. His mom, however, was harder to reach as she was deeper in the debris. After a strenuous effort, she too was rescued and taken for medical treatment, but tragically, she later died from her injuries. Firefighters managed to save 35 people, most of whom were in parts of the building that hadn't fallen. Still, 159 residents were unaccounted for. In response, the county mayor and the Florida governor declared a state of emergency, calling for every available resource to aid in the rescue efforts. A center for reuniting families was set up at the Surfside Community Center, where anxious people arrived in droves, searching for their missing loved ones. In the aftermath, various specialized rescue squads, including FEMA Urban Search and Rescue Task Force teams, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and even an international team from the Israeli Defense Forces Home Front Command, were deployed. These teams worked non-stop, in 12-hour shifts, around the clock. The rescue efforts were complicated by an underground fire that sent smoke through the ruins, obscuring vision and hindering progress. As the days passed, the list of missing people slowly shrank, but tragically, no new survivors were found. By July 1st, after a week of intense efforts, the count was 18 dead and 143 still missing. As the situation became increasingly perilous, the operation had to be paused. The remaining part of the building was tilting dangerously, posing a risk to the rescuers, who were warned it might collapse soon. Adding to the urgency, Tropical Storm Elsa was approaching Florida, threatening to bring strong winds and heavy rain that could destabilize the ruins further. With time running out, the rescue operations needed to move quickly, but hope was fading. On July 4th, a somber atmosphere replaced the usual Independence Day celebrations across Miami-Dade County. The focus remained on the rescue efforts at Champlain Towers South. To increase their chances of finding survivors, rescue teams employed thermal cameras and drones, but the situation looked bleak. The death toll had climbed to 24. That same day, it was announced that the unstable part of the building would be demolished between 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. to prevent an uncontrolled collapse. The necessary explosives were prepared. As the storm loomed closer, urgency grew among the rescuers to proceed before conditions worsened. However, a group of residents opposed the demolition plan. These individuals, whose pets were still missing, had collected 18,000 signatures, pleading to delay the demolition until their pets could be rescued or located. On the evening of July 5th, at 10:30 p.m., the remaining unstable section of Champlain Towers South was brought down. 20 minutes later, recovery teams resumed their efforts. The following day, Tropical Storm Elsa hit Florida, bringing fierce winds and heavy rain. Despite the challenging conditions, the storm allowed rescuers to access parts of the debris that were previously unreachable. Sadly, they only found more victims, not survivors. By the end of that day, the death toll had climbed to 36, an increase of 10 in just 24 hours. 2 weeks after the disaster, the harsh reality set in that the chance of finding any survivors was nearly impossible. The mission was officially changed from a rescue to a recovery operation. This grim task continued until July 26th, when the last victim was located. Ultimately, the tragedy claimed 98 lives, with only 3 residents surviving the collapse. This made the Champlain Towers South disaster one of the deadliest building collapses in U.S. history. As the nation mourned, there was also a desperate need for answers about how such a well-appointed building could simply fall apart. Champlain Towers South was no ordinary building. Condos there sold for between $600,000 to $700,000, with the penthouse fetching nearly $3 million just months before the collapse. The building boasted luxurious amenities like a 24-hour concierge, a surveillance system, valet parking, a barbecue area, gym, sauna, hot tub, and a heated outdoor pool. Despite its luxury, the building had serious hidden flaws. In October 2018, Morabito Consultants, an engineering firm, was brought in to inspect the structure. They found a major issue: the pool deck's waterproofing was failing. Their report warned that the waterproofing under the pool deck and the entrance drive was worn out and needed urgent replacement. The damaged waterproofing was causing significant structural damage to the concrete slab below these areas. The report stressed that if the waterproofing wasn't replaced soon, the damage to the concrete would grow rapidly, leading to severe consequences. The inspection revealed cracks in the concrete columns, beams, and walls that supported the parking garage underneath the pool deck. While the report stressed the urgent need to fix the waterproofing to ensure resident safety, it did not suggest that the building was in danger of collapsing. The engineering firm, Morabito Consultants, did not send this report to city officials. The estimated cost for the repairs was around $15 million, a large sum, but necessary given the scale of the repairs needed. The Condo Association approved the proposal and secured a loan to fund the work. The first priority was repairing the deteriorated roof. At the time of the collapse, contractors were actively working on these repairs. However, more urgent issues were discovered. Just 3 days before the tragedy, a pool contractor inspected the area to prepare a restoration bid. He was alarmed by what he found beneath the pool deck: water covering the floor, significant cracks in the concrete walls and ceiling, and exposed, rusty rebar. These signs raised serious concerns about the stability of the entire pool deck slab. Since the building's construction in 1981, the rebar supporting the pool deck had been slowly corroding, a process that unfolded over 40 years. On June 24, 2021, this deterioration reached a critical point, and the pool deck slab failed, compromising the foundation of the building's central section. Shortly thereafter, this part of the building collapsed into the area near the pool deck. 1.5 years after the disaster, the National Institute of Standards and Technology was still investigating the collapse. The inquiry was comprehensive, considering all possible factors that might have contributed to the building's failure, and was expected to take several years. The proximity of Champlain Towers South to the beach led investigators to also examine the effects of salt, humidity, and other environmental factors on the concrete's deterioration. There were also concerns about the building's construction quality. A forensic engineering expert hired by the town of Surfside, Alan E. Kilsheimer, noted that the rebars in the concrete beams were not arranged as originally planned in the blueprints. He also questioned whether the number of rebars used was sufficient for the building's structural integrity. Allegations also surfaced that the building investors had bribed local officials to secure construction permits for the condominium. By 2021, all individuals originally involved in designing, funding, and constructing the building had passed away. However, responsibility for the disaster was widespread, implicating the Condo Association, the companies tasked with the building's construction and maintenance, and the city of Surfside itself. Therefore, on June 23, 2022, the day before the disaster's first anniversary, Miami-Dade Circuit Judge Michael Hansman approved a tentative settlement of $1.02 billion between the accused parties and the families of the victims, along with the owners of the destroyed condos. The collapse of the Surfside condominium raised concerns among residents and authorities about the safety of other buildings in the area, potentially facing similar issues as Champlain Towers South. In response, Florida introduced a new law requiring all residential buildings 30 years or older and within 3 miles of the coast to undergo structural integrity inspections. For buildings beyond this coastal zone, inspections are mandated once they reach 25 years of age and every 10 years thereafter. This new legislation aims to prevent future tragedies by ensuring that all aging buildings are properly evaluated and maintained. Though these measures provide some reassurance to the residents of Surfside and the wider Florida community about the safety of their homes, they come as a somber reminder of the Champlain Towers South tragedy. The lives lost in the collapse are a tragic testament to the need for rigorous building oversight.